Welcome back, everyone. I am Danny, feeling thoughtful again. Today, this is what we're talking about. 5 levels of health. Oh, look. That's not right. Not Heath. Health. Health. Consciousness. Consciousness. 5 levels of health consciousness. And these are just 5 little levels that I thought of myself. So they don't have anything to do with anyone else. The first one is going to be health. That's 1. 2 is going to be healthy. So, just basic health. And then this is healthy. And then 3 is going to be 1% healthy. 4 is going to be quantum. And 5 is the integrated health level. All right, and we're going to break each of these down a little bit. So number 1 over here, health. This is going to be just your normal, everyday, average person, right? The average person. They're living in, out in the world. They're just kind of doing whatever they do. You know, they eat, they go to work, they sleep, they repeat, they don't question, they don't do anything but follow maybe the food pyramid. You know, the government tells you to eat. Or they may just be, they just may have just not a broad idea of health, right? They're just kind of here, you know? They're just kind of existing. Existing in the world. No worries. No cares. But they may see health from the perspective of, well, I need to go to the doctor, or they may be sick for all the time from some illnesses. They may have some type of chronic disease. So these are the people that'll be on like medications, go to the doctor for every little thing that might pop up, things like that, you know. They may just they just have a fundamental understanding of health, right? Just what's in front of their face, what they see, how they feel. If they're feeling bad, they're going to go to the doctor. If they're feeling good, they're not going to go to the doctor. They're just living life how they're experiencing their feelings in the very moment. Okay. Healthy is going to be the people that kind of take the step forward out of that paradigm where, you know, they're starting to maybe pay attention to the foods they're eating, paying attention. They may count calories. You know, read labels on food. They may start to read labels. They may start to question a little bit, just a little. And then, you know, they may go to the gym, you know, have a gym routine, run, bike, you know, have something that they're interested in doing. Go play tennis, play basketball, play pickleball, whatever. They just have like, it's just a level ahead. It's just one step up where you're not just kind of existing at that point. Now you're kind of making a conscious effort to feel healthy, to do better, to be healthy, right? So the next level after this is going to be the 1% healthy. And I just thought of this. And it may not even be 1%, right? It may be whatever percent. I don't know. But I just thought it sounded good. But these people are a subset of the healthy. And what I mean by that is that they're the people that have been paying attention. They're in the gym. They're killing it. You know, they strive to meet their goals. Strive to meet their goals. They're usually gym rats. Counting calories is a part of it. You know, they may be counting calories, but at this level, they're dialing in macros, right? Dialing in macros. And the macros is the fats, carbs, and protein, right? So you're counting all this. You're breaking it down into the calories, so you're kind of paying a little bit more attention, right? Your consciousness is going up. You're breaking down these things into more questions, right? Like we're not just going to count the calories. We're going to actually figure out what the calories are per unit gram of this, right? So you're just upping your level, your health consciousness level. You know, they're going to be in the gym, like I mentioned, and they may do multiple things. You know, they may be in they may be doing like strongman or running marathons, and they're usually like really fit. They might take part in like bodybuilding. You know, building a perfect physique, getting down to a perfect physique in their mind. Perfect physique. We're just gonna spell it like that. Physique. And then also here is where most of the time mentally people are looking at the physique as the point of health, right? They'll look at you, the aesthetics. I probably spelled that wrong, but you get it. They focus heavy on aesthetics. Health is all about aesthetics whenever you get to here, because that's where you see like you might have a magazine that you grew up and you flipping pages and you're like, man, I want to look like that, right? Yeah. So you work super duper hard. You work hard. This is what it is. Goal setting. Did I say that already? Goal setting and working hard. You know, you got to get out there and you got to work hard. You got to work hard or you're not going to get what you want. You got to freaking get out there and work hard. You know, that's typically how you see this here. One problem with this. Oh, sorry about that. Where was I? I said one problem with this is, I don't know, maybe it'll come back to me. All right, so the next one here is going to be quantum. And what I mean by quantum is, first of all, a lot of people get stuck. Like they're either here, we're just going to divvy this off, or they get kind of here, right? They'll be in this box or they'll be in this box. Okay? All right. And these are both centralized. Centralized paradigms. Centralized paradigms. This means that you have an authority that has told you kind of like how to think, right? This one would be like the government or just institutions that have existed around and stuff. They kind of tell you, you know, you need to eat this type of food. You need to do this. You need to have this type of medication. You need to have this type of treatment. You know, these people here They look at influencers a lot. Influencers, uh, it's all about the latest and greatest supplements, and they may be trying to sell you a membership, or they might be trying to sell you on programs, different things like that. Programs, protein. I can't spell today. Protein, memberships, to their clubs, or CrossFit fits in here. Stuff like that. CrossFit. This is all within this paradigm. We're going to call this paradigms. Paradigm 2. Quantum is the next one. So let's kind of break that down a little bit. Quantum is whenever you realize that, or maybe not realize, but you may realize it, but you may also just do more research. And like I said, a lot of people just kind of get in this box and they stay. Now, if you start to seep out of here, right, then you start to question more. So what I'm trying to say is right here, you didn't really question. Right here, you question. You started asking why. Well, why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? So here, you're asking more questions. You're just saying, well, like when it comes to macros, fats, carbs, protein. When you understand, you start to think about how the human body works at a molecular level. Then you know that mitochondria, well, you taught this in school, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, blah, blah, blah. Well, when you start to dig deeper into that and you start to ask more questions, you start to understand that it's not fats, carbs, and protein that your body processes, right? It's actually electrons, protons. Your food breaks down into this. So this kind of gets back to what I started talking about in the second episode about energy. Everything has an energy, right? It's the base layer is energy. So what does it break down to? It breaks down into electrons and protons, and how does that process through your metabolism, right? And so then you start to realize that, okay, well, which one of these, like, what is the electron, proton, like, how's it contained into each of these things? And then you start to understand how each of those things work individually and how they affect your body on an individual basis, right? You start to break it down further. It's kind of like you broke down calories, now you're breaking it down to these things, and now you're breaking this down to its fundamental level. And so electrons, protons, and of course you're still doing a few of these things. You're dialing it in, you're figuring it out, you're striving, you're learning. This one's a lot of learning, right? This one breaks the paradigm. And then you also start to learn about the big one here is circadian. Hold on. Is whenever you start to understand circadian biology. This is whenever you'll have a big breakthrough in this one. Circadian biology is just when you start to understand that everything is linked on the earth to two things. One is the sun, right? The sun is circadian biology, and how it influences your hormones, timing. You start to learn timing, like the morning, you get morning sun in your eyes. It leads to this. This leads to this. This leads to this, and you understand why sleep is so important. I'm not gonna dig so deep into it right now because I don't want to make this video so long that it's just unbearable. But we can dive deep into this on another one. So circadian biology is a huge one here in quantum health consciousness. The next thing after that is you start to understand. So once you start to understand the sun, you start to understand its direct influence on you, right, as a person, and how everything is tied to photosynthesis, right? Photosynthesis. I'm not spelling good today. Photosynthesis. This is. Whenever you start to understand photosynthesis is connected to circadian biology, then you understand that the food web on Earth is tied to photosynthesis, and that is tied to the sun. And so you start to break this down into more of like the level of what's eating what, right? So what am I eating? You're asking more questions. So say you're eating grass-fed cow or just a cow, and the cow eats the grass, and the grass comes from the sun. So that's like a chain, right? And you can start to see that if you're eating food that's grown correctly in the sun, then because the sun and light is information, and it's just information getting processed into each individual organism as it goes down the line. Now, the further you get away from photosynthesis, because listen, this is what this is about nature. The further you get away from the photosynthesis, the more problems you start to have because you lose coherence with nature, right? It's all about having coherence and decoherence. And so decoherence happens here, where you're just not really paying attention and things start to go downhill. And you could end up with like chronic diseases. But here, you're starting to be quantum coherent with nature. And you're starting to understand that like processed foods, those are man-made mostly. So whenever you think about that, just think about it. Just stop and think. If something's man-made and doesn't have anything to do with photosynthesis, then I am not actually eating something that is coherent with nature. And so it opens up like this Pandora's box of ideas where you start to eat and you start to pay attention to things more closely to how they are energetically. Energetically. And that's the key. Whenever you start to see things as energy, then you start to understand that it's more than just this, right? It's a deeper level. And then you also understand that the gym, you understand light in general. You understand the effects of light and EMF. EMF is just magnetic. It's the magnetic force, non-native EMF. It's just waves of energy that are not native to the earth, right? So like when you put little pod things in your ears and you got two of them and it's sending a signal across, you kind of not doing your brain a service there, and you start to understand waves and energy and how each level of wave affects your biology, because it really does. All right, so that kind of explains number 4. Now, number 5 is the integrated. And what I mean by the integrated is that you start to see this whole picture, right? All levels. You've probably been through all levels, and you start to put together everything. And this is the level where you stop seeing yourself as separate, right? In this level, you saw yourself as you, and then you saw the sun as the sun, and you saw that as like a combining of the two. Well, here you see yourself as as not separate. You begin to come together as one. And then it kind of dissolves, right? The the separation between you and nature totally dissolves, and you see energy. You see everything as energy, and you could respond to everything as if it were energy. So the line between you and your environment kind of fold and meld into one, and you see everything as energy, and you can start to integrate the way you feel in your mind and emotions, and you start to understand truly how the mind plays into health, right? This is where everything comes together, where you finally understand that the mind is the driver of the energy, and everything is energy, and you're not separate from it. And you start to incorporate all of these things into your life and drive it with your mind. And then once you do that, all of these things right here, this work hard, the aesthetics of the ego, that goes away. You start to see yourself as perfection, as you are. Perfection with nature. You're coherent. You're coherent. And it starts to be easy. You don't have to go run all the time. Work hard just becomes an afterthought. Like, you understand energy, so you don't have to go out there and try to bust your butt to make energy, because you learn how to sit in your own and harvest it and use it the most efficiently. You start to really understand that aesthetics isn't the 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 pinnacle of health. It has nothing to do with health, actually. Aesthetics is your ego. Aesthetics is just your ego saying, "Man, I want to look like that." Right? This is perfection to me. But in reality, it's not, because it's an ever changing experience. Your body's going to be ever changing, and it's like it's never going to be good enough. Right? You get to one goal, then you're going to have to go to another goal, then you have to go to another goal, and then you got to keep it up your whole life. Right? And so this right here is what we call the decentralized paradigm. And I'd say probably a small percentage of people actually understand this. They actually try to understand it, or have been what's the word I'm looking for? Exposed to it. Not a lot of people have been exposed to it, and you probably look like a weirdo or something whenever you talk about some of this stuff, like cold plunges. Like, these people may be doing cold plunges, but these people know why the cold plunge, why and what it does inside the cell at a very basic level. These people understand it. So whenever you start to talk about some of these things, like saunas, cold plunges, um, um, different things with circadian biology, grounding, how the heliosphere of the Earth and the magnetic forces form like lightning is basically electrons grounding to Earth, and then you go outside, you could absorb them through your skin and stuff. So a lot of stuff might sound weird to some people whenever they're not really exposed to it, and they may be here and caught in their ego on some instances. But the whole point of this is just, from a decentralized perspective, this is you questioning you, right? Searching for knowledge, answering your own questions, like, or trying to find the answers to questions you have, and you're not just blindly taking advice from someone or something. I mean, just think about our health system right now. Like, we pay the most money for our insurances, but we're the least healthy people ever. I don't know about ever, but we're really unhealthy. So the whole point of this is ask questions. Never stop asking questions. If you never stop asking questions, you'll be number 5. You'll get there. As soon as you stop asking questions, you'll stay right where you're at. But some people might be happy there, so it's all up to you. It's all objective. It's all subjective. And it's all our own reality. But I just wanted to break it down, and if you got any comments or anything, just let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's stay feeling thoughtful.